Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. I hope everyone is having a lovely week. I am joined today by Vanessa Jane, connecting all the way from Australia. Vanessa is a qualified counselor and an advanced MACE practitioner and international trainer. I was very fortunate to have experienced Vanessa's MACE practitioner skills. We connected online, and she facilitated some of the practices with me from MACE, and it's very transformative, I have to say. So I feel very privileged that I got to experience that. So thank you very much, Vanessa. Welcome.
Thank you. And
Yeah,
you're
thank
more
you.
welcome, Megan.
Yeah, so can you tell us a little bit, Vanessa, about your cultural background, your upbringing, and some of your early career influences?
Sure. Well, as Megan just said, I'm from Australia, so I'm in Queensland, so the warmer part of Australia. Um, my gosh, I grew up in the west of Sydney in the Blue Mountains, which is a really lovely area. I came from a really good home. Like my parents were amazing. I have two fantastic brothers. We definitely had a good childhood, and but what I just on my own personal was there was always something that I was not happy about. Like I just could never find that happiness or joy, even though I came from a good home. So through high school, I was one of the unfortunate people that got bullied in high school, and that influenced a lot of what was going on in my personal, like just within myself as well. And then I
Mm-hmm.
kind of just floated, like for quite a few years. I got into the hospitality industry, had a really bad car accident, couldn't actually do that anymore. So, and then I was like, well, what am I going to do? And then I was like, oh, I'll become a travel agent. So I did that. So I really floated between different types of careers. And from there, I became a receptionist for a while. And then I had my first child. After that, it was
Wow.
like I really wanted to sink my teeth into something that just resonated with my soul. And the breakdown of my marriage at the time, I went into counselling to kind of get myself through it.
Mm-hmm.
Really loved the process of it. I'd never been in counselling before. And so being able to then step into, I went, you know what, I'm going to become a counsellor. And that was over 20 years ago. And it was the best decision I've ever made because it was
Yeah.
definitely my calling. I was always one of these people that people would talk to. Even when boyfriends were breaking up with me, they go, "You're so understanding." I'd be like, "Yeah, I know, okay,"
Yeah.
you know. Um, but it
I
was
can resonate
this
with that.
natural thing, yeah, right. And so that just led me into the mental health industry, and also just on my own personal development path as well. And from there, I've just learned different things. So I'm a qualified meditation practitioner, I am a qualified life coach, I'm a qualified clinical hypnotherapist, and also MACE. And so my journey through all of that is I've learned things, and I think you and I have spoken about this, Megan,
Mm-hmm.
in we do things to work on ourselves, but we're also looking for things to keep helping our clients to achieve great results in their lives and transform and step out of all that trauma that they may have had in their younger years. And that's that. So that's kind of been my path. I will continue to do what I do. I absolutely love it and can do it all day, every day. If I, yeah, I could definitely do it.
Yeah, and I think the connecting piece were one of the things where you and I really sort of intersected with the career similarities is that you and I both are qualified counselors, therapists, and I think we both have seen that while that's an amazing base, I would say, and like first step, something that we both really, were able to bond over when we were talking is the wanting to have something that's that much more transformative for our clients where they can really see a shift so much faster because a lot of times when we work with people, they have done a lot of work and they have talked about the shitty things that they've been through over and over and over again. And it's like, yeah, they know why they're in pain and it's not going away.
That
You know?
exactly, and it's actually been proven now that talk therapy or talking about your problem or about what's happened to you actually doesn't help. It can make it a lot worse, because
Yeah.
they're reliving the trauma, they're reliving the event. And what happens is it's kind of like you're constantly picking at that wound and it never totally heals. Though
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I found, not just with my clients, but with myself as well in my own personal journey in talking about things. It wasn't shifting that deep core uh, feeling that seemed to have always been there. And that's what I
Yeah.
found with a lot of my clients too, is they get the strategies and the tools, but that feeling, it was always an underlying current.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember in my own personal therapy, as you will recall, when you're training to be a therapist, you are required to be in therapy, or at least for mine, we were required to be in personal therapy for the duration of our training. So it's, like 3 years of weekly therapy. It's intensive. So I actually did a new therapist each year because I was like, I might as well try different types of therapy and like different therapists. And it
Yeah.
was in the second year of just person centered talk therapy. And I was like, and I got annoyed because I was going through stuff and I was struggling and I didn't want to just talk about it. I wanted to feel better and I wanted tools that I could use so that I would show up differently, so that I would feel better. And I got frustrated with my therapist and I was like, I need you to challenge me more. And then my therapist actually got really defensive and was like, it's not my job to make you feel
Oh,
better.
oh wow. So
And
you triggered your therapist. Great.
and that actually was like the rupture for us. And I wasn't with that one for much longer. Before then I switched to a different kind of therapy and I worked with an EMDR therapist. And
Yeah.
that's the first time I ever experienced anything which I kept comparing felt similar to MACE, which I did with you, in that I didn't have to say too much. I mean, I did explain stuff, but I didn't have to go into so much detail and talk it to death. I would think of the situation and then we would do the bilateral stimulation techniques that are incorporated in EMDR. And a few days later, the thing that I was upset about would just kind of dissolve. Like it just would lose its emotional intensity. And it was just fascinating to me. And I could never understand how it works. But then it's in Bessel van der Kolk's The Body Keeps the Score, where he really breaks down kind of EMDR and how it helps people with PTSD. But could you explain a little about MACE, which is that's your main area now that you practice in, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I sort of came across MACE about 8 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and the how I came across it was my husband at the time. He was a bit of anger issues and stuff, and he was taking it out on the kids. And I said to him, I said, "You need to go get that sorted. Like it's not healthy for us, and it's definitely not healthy for you." And he was going to these meditation evenings and got talking to this person, and this person was a MACE practitioner, and he went and had a session. And when he came back home, I noticed a change straight away. And it was like, oh, what happened? And so my counselling and my always looking for something came, and I was
Uh-huh.
like, so tell me what happened. And he couldn't explain it. And as you know, Megan, it's a little bit hard to explain in terms
Yeah.
of how it works. But he just said that he felt different, and he was trying to explain it to me. I said, look, don't worry, I'll just go get my own session. So
Uh-huh.
I booked in for my own session, and then went and had it, and I was blown away. So that feeling that I was referring to earlier that had always been there in my life was gone. Like in just one session, totally gone. And so I drove out of the driveway of that practitioner, and was like, I need to learn how to do this. So I put over on the side of the road, I Googled practitioners, like learning how to study this modality, and rang up the person and said, I want to train in this. I've just had my session. I'm gobsmacked. I'm a counsellor and I want to give this to my clients. And that's how I got into it. So I started studying it, learning it, and I've been now doing it for over 7 years. And I'm also a trainer in it. So I'm now one of the few people in the world that are qualified to train people to become practitioners. I would never do anything else. This is one modality that, you know, the phenomenal changes that people get in a moment, like you shift instantly and it's gone. And it's because we're using the person in the correct way. We're using all the body parts in the correct way and understanding how we operate. That is how we're able to then remove and get rid of all those things that are holding you back. And sometimes, you know, we go to counselling and we talk about, oh, this is what's going on in my world, this is, you know, what's happening, and we talk about where it's manifesting. So in the reality of our world, you know, this is what's going on. It's relationship problems, we're fighting all the time and all this sort of stuff. But what happens is it may not be where the cause is. So when we go to counselling, we talk about this, we get strategies to heal this, we try and work on our feelings, how we feel about this. But the problem is, if it's not, the cause isn't there, you're not going to heal it. Because cause can be way over here. It can be some other thing that is going on in your world that is creating it for to manifest here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so when we get to the root, so what MACE does is it gets to that root cause, and with simple mindful process, it eliminates it. It's gone for good, and it never comes back. And that's the beauty of MACE, and we can get change very, very quickly. We can also do deep immersions. We can do, you know, full transformations with people. I know for myself, you know, obviously I've had many sessions over the years. It helps to move yourself through things. Now I kind of feel like I live up here, and if I have a slight drop and it stays for even like 24 hours, that's, I know you're going. I don't want to feel like this. So we're able to stay in those high levels of life, so to speak.
Yeah, I found it really fascinating when you took me through the process. It was like you knew the exact questions to ask, and I'm sure it's part of the training, but you knew the exact questions to ask, and then I immediately like would feel the feeling and see the thought, and then you would have me think about it, and it would just, you asked me after, you were like, can you see it, can you feel it, and I would be like, I don't even remember the thought. It's like, it is like it just disappears. And obviously the real big thing that we looked at and we worked through in our last session, I'm not going to forget that thought because it was a big one, but I've really like thought about it over the last week, and I like tried to think about it, and it's crazy that I feel like just complete emotional detachment from that, and it had affected me for a very long time. So and I think it's so important, you know, to talk about the methodology, the history behind it, and like, you know, it's still relatively new because I had never heard of it. But I would love, let's hope that in a few years, a lot more people will have heard of it, because I think that this is a really important tool that you have that more people need to experience.
I 100% agree with you on that one. You know, I think if everyone in the world could have a session, the world would be a very different place. But in just sort of coming back, Meghan, to what you were saying about even on reflection, there's no emotional charge to that thought. That's what we do. When we understand that we don't ever bring the events forward. We can't change what's happened in the past. What's done is done. But we absolutely do not have to be affected by it in our present day life. And so when we remove that emotional charge, so we're not just diminishing it, we're actually removing it, which can make it really challenging to try and, well, you can't feel it again because it's like throwing out the rubbish. You know, you put the rubbish in the bin, it goes to the curb, and the big truck takes it all away, and you never ever see it again. And it's out of your world, it's out of your life. That's kind of what happens. So often what also can happen is when a person shifts something, so we call it discreating, because we unknowingly create these things. So if we unknowingly can create them, then we can absolutely discreate them. So when we discreate them, what ends up happening is they're gone. But what can also happen is sometimes they're gone and people don't even recall, like, oh, I don't even know. I didn't, like,
Yeah.
what was it I worked on? I didn't even know what I was working on, because it's literally out of your universe. So
Yeah, I mean,
when
some of it by the end of the session, I was like, I don't remember what I was talking to you about. Like, it was so weird. I was like, I don't remember the thing. It's completely gone from my head.
well, that's it, because you're not resisting it anymore,
Yeah.
and you've removed the emotional charge out of it. So therefore, you don't even need to hold on to it. It just goes, and that's the beauty of it. Like, you know, people. I mean, I saw an ad on my Facebook page once, $5,000 to learn how to manage your anxiety in 30 days, and I was like, wow, you could actually get rid of your anxiety. You know, we don't need to live with anxiety or depression or PTSD or, you know, compulsive behavior, any part of yourself that you don't particularly like and would like to change. We can absolutely get rid of it. And that's the power of MACE. There's a gentleman called Joe Mazinski in the US. He's a renowned psychotherapist. He's worked with prisoners, and he specializes in schizophrenics. And he uses MACE. He's a practitioner, and he said, and I'm sort of sub-quoting, I don't recall exactly his words, but basically he was saying that, you know, MACE is one of the only things that are actually really helping when it comes to schizophrenics.
Yeah.
So that, even just that alone, you know, he sort of, the drugs and stuff they're not working for people, and MACE actually works. And when we can shift the, you know, so as I said, we bring the event forward. We don't bring the event forward, my apologies. We live through the feelings. It's the feelings that we hold on to. They're, you know, we can feel them within us, and it's those feelings that we bring forward in life. And when we know that, and know that feelings control us, like when you think about how you interact with a person, it's influenced how you feel. Or, you know, do I go and post that video online? Oh, no, hold on a moment. No, because I don't like how I feel. Or do I go for that promotion at work? Or there's so many things that, you know, we want to do that benefit ourselves, but we'll have a feeling that holds us back. Or a decision that we've made about ourselves that holds us back. And then that plays out our life. That's what creates all the things that are happening in our world. And when I talk about our world, I'm talking about your own personal world, not the external world. And what's going on in your internal world reflects out into your external world. Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
Yeah. And so how MACE came. So John Mace is an Australian. He passed back in 2018. He spent 50 years researching psychology, counselling, like all of that. He was actually a ship's captain, funnily enough. Yeah, he was a ship's captain, but he had this passion for knowledge and this passion for learning about the human psyche, and he realised that, you know, counselling and things just weren't working. But and so he started just kind of, you know, learning and studying, and he realised that what was out there wasn't actually truth. And so when he discovered the true ability about the mind, he was able to then work out this process. And then another gentleman called John Avery, who's a co-founder of MACE as well, between the two of them, they kind of practiced it and fine-tuned it. So MACE has actually been around for over 20 years now. But you're absolutely right. It is not well known. And, you know, we are trying to really push it out there because it's such a benefit to everybody, whoever has a session. And so he's been doing that. He wrote a book. I'll just show you this. It's that one there.
Yeah, yeah.
It explains how it came about, and people that read that book go, "Oh, it makes so much sense." Oh,
And
it's
it's called causism.
Causism, yeah.
Causism.
So you
Okay.
can find it on my website. It's a great read, and it's a really good background of who John is, how or like MACE came about, and just the way we work as a human being, and how the MACE modality has been able to utilize the trueness of who we are as human beings, and then create this modality that is phenomenal and really does actually work.
Yeah. You said that you are one of a small number of people who is like qualified qualified to train people in it.
Yeah, so there's hundreds of practitioners throughout the world. We've got plenty in the US. We've got a number in Europe, and obviously here in Australia. So we are there's a lot of practitioners around the world. In terms of learning to do it for yourself, as in becoming a practitioner so you can help people, there's only a few of us that are trained to be able to do that. It's interesting because a lot of people go, "Oh, is it like NLP?" And it's like, no, you can't get your certificate in a weekend.
Yeah.
It's a 6 to 8 month program. It's a course that you have to do. So there's a lot of learning and knowledge and unlearning stuff that unfortunately mainstream, a lot of us have kind of repeated and regurgitated, and not actually the truth. And so when you're able to, we go and we learn this, and then you go out and you practice it, and there's sort of different stages you can do in it. But we're just finding people are looking. COVID really kind of blew it up a little bit. Definitely here in Australia, I think probably in the US as well, the mental health system really copped a bit of a beating and realised that it's not actually working. And so people are now looking.
Really hard in the UK as well. In the UK, my God, really bad. Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely an eye-opener. And what we've noticed is, people are tired of things not working. People are tired of feeling the way they've been feeling. They want to let it go. And it's almost like, when we can find something that actually works, you just keep talking about it. People talk about it, they tell their friends, and that's kind of been this snowball effect that we've noticed in terms of, it growing quite rapidly.
Yeah. Yeah, completely. Can you give me some examples of some of the major transformations that you've seen, or are you allowed to talk about anything?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I have on my website, I've got a stack of testimonials, people that even are happy to give videos of the changes that they've had. But obviously, I don't disclose any names, so no, it's all personal. One of the ones, there's a few that really stick out. I had a lady, she was in her 40s, and she came for relationship issues. So MACE works really well with relationships as well. When we get rid of the patterns that we've created, or, the decisions that we've made about ourselves, like I'm never chosen, or I'm unlovable, or when we shift all that, our behaviors and how we show up in a relationship absolutely changes as well. So she came for a relationship, to work on her relationship, and just the way the setup is of the process is, we want to get to the root cause of what's causing the biggest trouble in your life. And so we did the session, and it was at the end of it, and she's just like, I had a very traumatic event when I was 13. I went, psychotherapy, counselling, psychology, psychiatry. I did the drugs. I took the medication, and I could never ever get rid of it. I was told to reframe it, and it's just making me stronger. She said I spent my whole life, my young adulthood, going in and out of rehab because I was using drugs to not feel. She said, I finally got myself to a place, but she said, that feeling has now gone. She said, after all these years. So she was 40. This happened when she was 13.
Wow.
So that's one instance, like, that was phenomenally life-changing for her. Just in
And
that
was
one
just
moment to shift that
one
trauma,
session?
and it was a big trauma. That was one session. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Another example I can give, yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah.
So you just think about how much her life has now changed because she's no longer feeling that. And the ripple effect that creates through her world. Another example is a 16-year-old child who was having trouble getting to school, massive anxiety, would get halfway to school and then they'd have to turn around and come home. He was in the senior years of his schooling, and so, obviously it was affecting him. Like, he needed to go to school, he needed to be educated, but he was having trouble. He was also in a sport and he was having trouble getting to the training, which is, contradictory to how he felt about it, because he absolutely loved this sport. So he had, overall, we did 4 sessions with him over a 3-month period. And I got a phone call one day from his mum, and she was like in tears, and I just wanted to ring you and say thank you for giving me my son back. He's actually coming out of his room and talking to us now. He's engaging with his grandparents, whereas before he was really withdrawn, he was shut down. He goes to school now, no problem. He's doing phenomenal. So, for kids, it's a great way, especially teenagers, when they don't want to talk or they don't even know what's going on. They just have these feelings and they're just miserable and life just feels really hard for them. To get them back in charge of their own life, that's a huge feat, I think, and, such a powerful thing for them to then take through their life. So that was that one. I had a 14-year-old, same thing, massive anxiety, but he was like vomiting to get to school. We've had one session and he gets to school.
A tool to help teenagers with hormonal changes during puberty.
Absolutely. Just the dynamic, just the abilities of what MACE is when we really understand who we are. I mean, I could go on for ages, even just in my own personal life, I had 3 major events happen very quickly within a couple of months of each other, a number of years ago. Now, normally they were big events. So as you know, as a counsellor, when you have one big event or 2 big events, it's like having a stool with 3 legs. You take out two legs, it's very wobbly. You take out the third one, your whole world crashes. Well, that's kind of what happened to me. But I got through it so quickly and came out the other side of it because I used MACE throughout that. Just was processing everything and releasing the feelings that I was having about it all. So I was able to make better decisions. I was able to, show up differently, be a better parent. There was so many ways it influenced who I am now. I mean, I think I was on a podcast a few weeks ago and I was asked, if you could tell your 14-year-old self, what would you say? And I'm like, oh my gosh, that 14-year-old, I can't even relate to her or any of the things she was going through because I just don't have them anymore. So that's the power of it. And, we can do these changes in just 1 or 2 sessions, which is really phenomenal. We're not having to do years and years of therapy.
Yeah, I mean, I really like to look at rock bottoms in my questioning. What are some of the biggest rock bottoms that, really altered the course of your life and your career? And I think for you might have to add on to the question that you've managed to just hop over with MACE. Yeah. So maybe could you kind of compare a rock bottom before you discovered MACE, and then what would be the equivalent of a rock bottom that you managed to very quickly navigate through with MACE?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I guess, so probably I've had a few rock bottoms in my life. It just seems to have been a very challenging journey I seem to have taken on this lifetime. So I guess I'll start with, I was diagnosed with a medical condition when I was 11. The medication, they didn't know much about it. It wasn't well known. The medication that they would put me on affected my weight. So you imagine a teenage girl
Yeah.
who had low self-esteem anyway and is now having, weight going up and down. Like, it was like a yo-yo. So that, and as I said earlier, I got bullied in high school, so that was all leading in. I then got married, and that relationship fell apart, and in the process of that falling apart, I was diagnosed with severe depression, so I was on medication for that.
Yeah.
So that there was a rock bottom, and that's, as I mentioned before, is when I stepped into getting counselling. So that was and it was taking so long. Like, I was in counselling for about 2.5, 3 years to, try and work through all of that. And, and then done the counselling, then came across MACE. And my second rock bottom, which I think is probably the rock bottom, was 7 years ago. My mum passed away. My house, my family home that I'd built, we had to sell, and my marriage fell apart. And it was all within a couple of months. So I'd been remarried, and so I had all of that. So I'd gone from,
Wow.
having this life to everything. I just felt like everything was taken out from underneath me. I didn't have any support. My brothers and my father just were in their own emotional grief. I had one friend who, she stepped in and she's like, okay, we need to get you a rental. We need to get your electricity on. And I was just like, okay. I felt very out of body through that period of time. The emotions were so intense, and I was still trying to parent. Like, I was still trying to hold it together for my kids, because they'd lost one of their most favourite people. They'd lost their family home. And so it was massive, changes occurring.
You just disassociated.
100%. I just feel like I was just, like behind the mirror of my life. It was weird. But obviously, because I was already training or practitioner, I just kept doing the MACE. I was just running things and clearing things all the time. And I reckon within 6 months, I was definitely through it all and pivoted my whole entire life. My kids, they all had MACE as well to help them get through it. I can think about my mum, and, obviously I have love and emotion there and I miss her, but that's not that despair, that deep, heavy grief that just never seems to shift. You can shift it. And obviously the marriage breakdown, it was just like, okay, well, it is what it is, and I've rebuilt my life, and I've been able to do it pretty quickly, and I contributed all to MACE. I don't know where I would be financially, within my business, as a parent, with my health, like any part of my life. I don't know where I would be had I not had MACE and used MACE throughout that period of time. It's interesting, a friend of mine has been through something similar, and she's still, I think it's been about 3 years now. I've put MACE on the table, but some people are just like, oh no, I'm good, I'm doing well. But I can see that she still struggles a little bit. Anyway, I'm still working on her to come for a session. But so it's sort of, is that kind of, I wouldn't have got through it without it.
Yeah, I find that with any type of therapy, when someone needs it, it's very much like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink type thing, There's so many people that would benefit. I think talking therapy is good at the beginning if you've never, ever, ever done any kind of self-reflective work. I think it's good if you've got something that you've never visited before, to go over it, to identify and to learn about yourself. But I do think that there's a point where it's like, okay, you don't keep going back and revisiting the same problem. Understand it, and then learn from it and manage things differently going forward. And it's when you're unable to do that that tools like MACE sound just amazing, right? To help you transition moving forward. And I say sometimes when I'm looking at sort of the difference between even therapy and coaching, right? or other kinds of tools is that therapy is looking back, right? Understanding your past and your patterns and your history, and coaching and any other kind of tool that can help you with changed behavior and change things going forward. Coaching is looking forward.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel that MACE is a tool. What branch does it fall under? How does it classify itself?
It doesn't, and that's the
Yeah.
thing. It's like, I'm a qualified life coach. I don't do it, but I'm qualified.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when we really know who we are, as in terms of how we're made up, so we create identities. All right, so it's pretty well known that we're made up of mind, body, and soul. Those three elements. But what John discovered was the fourth element, the missing link, which we call identities. No? And we all have them. They're the various roles that we play in life. And, so we have our positive identities. Now, we talked earlier before, Megan, about some of my other things and what led me to where I've got to. And, I mentioned I worked in hospitality. I was a travel agent. I was a receptionist at a building construction home here in Australia. So, there are three different roles that I had to learn and grow and become. And, then I became a counsellor, and then the MACE Practitioner, and then the trainer. So they're all roles that I've learned. I'm also a mum. That's another role that I created. So we create these roles. But what happens is they're what we call our positive roles, but we actually have negative roles that we do, and we unknowingly create them. And this is the shift from everything else out there. When we understand that we unknowingly create these negativities in our life because of, the resistance that we have. When something's happening to us and we have a feeling coming in and we don't want to feel it, we resist it. It's like, I don't want to feel that, it's going to hurt me. It's a survival instinct, and we've all got it. So when we know, okay, we've got this survival instinct, there are two laws to survival. Law number one is we would never knowingly instigate something that's going to harm us. And law number two is we are only under the effect of what we don't know about. So when we think about those laws, okay, I'm never going to do something that I know harms us, and yet I'm creating these things that are harming me in terms of, let's say someone has the belief I'm not good enough, right? What we refer to that is it's a decision. So when we have an unpleasant feeling coming in and we give it resistance, so you're sort of resisting it, we then have to make a decision about it. But because we're in that feeling, that decision we make will mirror that feeling. So what really happens is we make a decision about ourselves. I'm not good enough. I'm incapable. I'm not lovable. I can't do this. This is, I don't deserve, as some of the examples. And so what happens is we unknowingly become that lesser person. And then that just plays out in our world. So we'll start bringing things in to highlight that to us, all because we're resisting that feeling. And then, so for example, it's like, we don't go, oh, I am inferior, and we don't walk around thinking to ourselves, I am inferior. What it is it's a sense of inferiority. It's a bit like, if we, in a moment of utter dejection, make a decision, I'll never ever be happy, then that decision is what we live our life by, but we just don't know it. And so when we're trying to get on with life, we're like, I should be really happy. I've got all these amazing things. Why don't I feel happy? I don't understand. It's because you've made this decision somewhere way back. You might have been 5 when you made the decision. And then that just sits there. And because we don't know we've done it, it will play out. And
we see this a lot with kids, when they're labeled like the problem child, the middle child, the people pleaser. Oh, she's a good girl. She'll do it. She's mommy's little helper, right?
Yeah.
And then that's the role that they have to take on forever.
Correct. A really good example that most people could relate to is shyness. If you've ever been around children, little ones, like 2-3 years of age, they are not shy. They are so
Yeah.
in tune with themselves, their effervescence, and and we all are attracted to just the energy of little ones because they're so joyful and playful, right? Everything's such a miraculous and it's fun, and then what happens is, how does a child like that then go and be really shy and introverted and shut down? And it's like, when we understand how we are as a person, what happens is something happened in their life. They had a feeling that came in, whether they were yelled at or told to shut up or whatever it was. And so they've made this decision, I can't talk, or I can't be me, or I've got to be small. And what happens is they then become that person. So they start to develop patterns of behavior, particular thoughts they start to have. They have particular feelings, and then they keep playing that out. And but with shyness, what makes it worse is when parents go, oh, hi, this is little Mary, she's shy. And then Mary grows up and Mary goes, hi, I'm Mary, I'm shy. So constantly identifying with it, even though it's not her.
Yeah.
And when we go, well, you know what, we can actually get rid of that. We locate the cause of it and we discreate it, we get rid of it, and that person's no longer shy. And that, when you think of that's transformative in someone's world, but that's how it works. So when we understand that we have these feelings that we resist, we make decisions about it that go against us, and they keep playing out. Now, some of them get activated, so every time it comes up, like someone who gets stressed all the time, or someone who's just chronically angry, like they flip off at the, that's not really who they are. That's just an identity that they've learned to do in order to, play out this role. When you can go, okay, well, we can get rid of that role, they can respond to life however feels right for them, as opposed to being reactive. And that puts them back in charge.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing.
Yeah,
So,
it's a big difference.
Yeah, it's a huge, completely. So, I mean, it's in some ways with certain personality types, it must be just like a complete personality shift.
You still have your fundamental basis of who you are. Like, that never really goes. But like, even I'll just use myself as an example. I was shy. Because of all of my history of my medical and stuff like that, I was very shy. And when I talk to people now and I meet people now, and when we get friends and we talk, and they go, oh yeah, I was really shy right through primary school and high school, they'll be like, you shy? No way. And I'm like, I was.
Yeah, that's hard for me to imagine as well. Yeah.
Yeah, right. But I really was. And I struggled with friends and all of this because of the identity that I have created of being shy. And because I no longer have that, I can't even relate to that anymore. It's like, well, I can't even see it. So it's interesting that, we don't have to be these parts, but we never get rid of the bits that who genuinely we are, our true essence of ourselves. When people go into self-development, they're trying to get back to themselves. That's all they're trying to do. So we have an awareness of, there's a natural state that I am, and anything less than that is not me.
Yeah, I'm thinking particularly of people I've worked with like OCD, like extreme anxiety, to be able to remove that. Because when you operate with something like that impacts you and so much of your day-to-day life, or like eating disorders, which is, oftentimes like an offshoot of a form of OCD, right? It's trying to like severely control everything in your lived experience.
Yeah.
To be able to just remove that, it would be huge. Have you worked with people who suffer from like OCD or eating disorders?
And PTSD. I had a client who was a veteran, had been in the Navy, and he had PTSD. In 3 sessions it was gone.
Wow.
Yeah. So, And he's just living like, so here in Australia we have Anzac Day. It's when all the veterans come and they you know, it's honoured. We're honouring their services from past to present, and it's kind of it's a big deal. He'd never been to one.
Okay.
And then when he worked with me, I think that was at like December, January, we worked together, and he went to the Anzac Day, which is in the April. The first one he'd ever been since he left the service.
Wow. And it wasn't triggering for him.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Body dysmorphia, eating disorders, self-harm, to be able to get that control back for themselves where they're not needing to do that, it's huge. OCD, yeah, like that compulsiveness, it gets them back in charge. In fact, I think it's the MACE website, or even in John's book, I can't quite remember, but John did work with a person who was really bad with OCD, and once they cleaned that up, she basically said, look, I like a clean house, but I'm not compulsive about it anymore. It doesn't, what to do it, you know, I've got to keep this house clean. It's like, oh yeah, I'll get to it. So it gives people's lives back. That's what it does. You know, you're not being controlled by these things that you don't want to be controlled by.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, from what I experienced when I went through it with you is I can just say that it just removes the heaviness, like the big feelings attached to the thing just kind of go away. And that is why I likened it to the only thing I felt that I've experienced that is a kind of similar was EMDR, which is, again, I couldn't explain it, but it just kind of takes away some of that pain and some of that heaviness and intensity. It's really amazing. So,
well, when you think about, you know, when we create these unknown identities, or, you know, what we refer to as negative identities, you know, at the core of it is a feeling we don't want to feel. We're giving it resistance. We then make a decision. We're living that decision. And then what happens is we start to develop other thoughts and feelings and actions to go with that. So we end up having patterns of behavior. When people go, oh, why do I keep doing that? Or, you know, why can't I do something different? It's because they're not in charge. It's the identity at the time. And some of these identities have so much more power than you as a being that it just feels like, oh, you know, they just feel like I can't get past it. And that can be very deflating for a person when they keep trying to not be that, but then they become reactive, or it keeps getting activated. And it's like, well, this is just who I am. This is just, I can't change this. But you can. If there's a certain part of yourself that you want to change, you can change it. And we can do it quickly and get rid of it. And then you get to be you. And that's so powerful. You know, one of the mission statement of the Causism Institute, which is what MACE is under, is, you know, we're helping people get back to live their life and their dreams. And that their own life and their own dreams, that word own is a really big word, even though it's small, because it gets you back to who you really are and what you really want to do, and be in your world, away from what society's telling you, away from what your family have told you have to be, away, it just allows you to get back to your true essence. And then from there, you're at cause. You're not under the effect of life. You're in charge.
Yeah.
And that is powerful.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So I like to ask people at the end what advice present day them would be to give to themselves at their lowest rock bottom moment. But I feel like for you it would be to learn MACE or to find a MACE practitioner. But what can you add to that?
Yeah, look, I know it's, some people may not want to go do MACE. So if you really want, all I can say is if you really, really don't want to be and do what you're doing and being, and you're sick of feeling the way you feel, and you've tried things and they haven't worked, give MACE a go. You've got nothing to lose. Like, you know, a lot of people come to us and it's the last resort. They literally say to us, this is my last resort. If this doesn't work, then nothing's going to. So I would definitely say that you don't have to spend years talking about it. You don't have to spend years trying to learn the tricks and the tools. I know for myself, you know, using affirmations, for example, they don't always work. I always felt like there was something wrong with me because why weren't they working for me? Like I was looking around, this was in the coaching industry, and, you know, I'd done the big things like all the Tony Robbins stuff, and I'd look around these events and people would be like, oh yeah, you know, I'd be like, I'm not feeling that. What is wrong with me? Like, why am I not shifting, you know, quantum leaping through my life like these people seem to be doing? I just could not work it out. And then, you know, once I've had a few sessions with MACE, like I understood it. It was like, oh, I just had a bigger thing driving me that I couldn't let go of.
Yeah.
We did MACE. So definitely I would recommend that. But if you can't do MACE or you don't want to give it a go, it's be kind to yourself. Like just love yourself in the moment of wherever you're at. Like if you're in a rock bottom, I think me just taking time for me and just being able to, you know, breathe, like just breathe, like just to be able to have a breath and go, it's okay for me just to breathe today. I don't, you know, take that pressure off of the to-do list and I have to get this done, and it's like it's okay to stop and pause and take a breath. And you know, like you could do the long-term drilling down, what's really going on with me, why am I feeling this way, and journaling and answering those questions, because you do get your answers. And sometimes you can do it enough where it takes that layer off or that shift. And you know, sometimes we can drill down and get that feeling and go, or that thought or that decision and go, oh yeah, that's silly, I don't need to think like that. And it goes. Like, you know, sometimes we can do that. But on the deeper stuff, sometimes you need a little bit of help. So that's probably what I would say is just be kind and love yourself, and, you know, just, it will pass. The storms always pass. And what are you saying to yourself in that moment? What are you thinking about? What's going on in your world? And, you know, it's trying to find one thing. And I get it. Sometimes that can be really hard if you've got no money, or, you know, you've ended up in debt, you've lost everything. It's like, yeah, but there's always one thing. Have you got that one friend you can be grateful for? Have you got that, you know, have you got children? Can you just give them a hug? Have you got loved ones that you can go spend time with? Like, there's always one thing. You're never totally alone. And so if you can go and find that one person, then go and do that and just sit with them or talk to them, or, you know, or find somewhere that brings you joy. That was one of the things that I was doing was, you know, the beach is my joy, and I was going to the beach all the time. Like, I'd just drive there. I'd have half a day of work and then I'd go to the beach. Like, so it's finding that bit, and nature's a really healing, soothing.
Huge. Nature's a big one. Yeah, for me, it's I have to go for a walk like every day. I have to. I absolutely have to. It's a non-negotiable. Yeah.
Right?
But I will say that, like, from like a coaching and therapy perspective, I think MACE is one of the most effective unblocking tools that I've experienced. So yes, if you can't access MACE, you know, know yourself and know the little things that work for you. But if you can, like, it's an incredible tool to help with unblocking.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Definitely a tool that's quick, fast, and effective. It gets you back in charge. It's permanent. It doesn't come back, as you know, Megan. It doesn't come back. And it fundamentally just gets you back to who you truly are. Who you really, you know, I don't want to use the word authentic. It gets thrown around a lot. But your true self. And you know who that is. Like, people know deep, deep down their true self. It just gets sort of shrouded by negativities that feel real and you know, feel like they are you, but they're not. So yeah, I would definitely suggest MACE. There's practitioners all over the world. Like, we've got them everywhere. And the good thing is you don't have to do it in person. We can do it over Zoom or
Online.
Skype,
Yeah.
or even, gosh, we can even do sessions over the phone. Like you don't even,
Wow.
we prefer the first session to be face to face so we can see and walk you through it better. But you don't need to have it in person, and that's another beauty of it too, is it's available to anyone at any time because we've got practitioners all over the world.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Well, if people want to work with you, Vanessa, if people are like, oh my God, I can't wait to try it, where do I go? Where
Okay,
can they
well,
find you? Where's all your stuff?
okay, so my website is shiftitco.com. So you can go on there, you can book in for a chat. I offer a free 30-minute chat to see whether it is a right fit for you. If if you have any questions, we can do that. Or if you're brave enough and you're a go-getter, you can jump in and just book a session. It's all there on my website. I do have programs, so if you kind of know like things like anxiety and depression and those really deeper, heavier things that we have in our world, sometimes we need just more than one session
Yeah.
because they can be chronic and they can have several sources. So like I said, that boy that I was talking about earlier, he had 4 sessions. I've got an 8-week program. It's a deep immersion. Like you want to go and transform your life, come and do that program. It's massive. I've had hundreds of women go through it now over the 5 years that I've been running it, and the transformations are unbelievable. And from all ages, I've had young 20-year-olds come through, and I think my eldest was 60. She was retired. She was feeling like her words were, "I feel like I live in a washing machine, and I'm sick of it." That's what she said to me when
Wow.
she came. I was like, okay, well, she goes, I just want to work on this, and so she did. She did the 8 weeks. She just changed on so many levels. She wasn't a doormat for her family anymore, and she just got her power back. So there's that. I have that program which I do recommend if you really
Yeah.
want to transform. It's we connect and you learn so much about yourself. You get rid of a lot of the stuff that maybe you don't even know is there. And if you want to read John's book, there's a link on my website as well. You can get an ebook for just a few dollars. I think not even a cup of coffee these days. You can get the book.
Yeah.
So there's a few ways you can meet. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram if you want to hear a bit more about it. I'm always talking about MACE and the benefits of it. Testimonials, you can go on my website, or even the MACE Energy Method website. You can go on that as well, and there's a bunch of testimonials. If you don't feel like you would relate to me, go and have a look for other practitioners.
Yeah.
And see, read their bio, see who resonates with you. We're not here to, no, you only need to see me. This is a beautiful tool that will get you back in charge, and there's no gatekeeping going on.
Yeah. Wonderful. And I'll put all of that in the show notes. So anyone who didn't get to write that down, it'll be in the show notes. So thank you so much, Vanessa. It was really wonderful speaking with you and hearing more about it as well, the history. So yeah.
Thank you so much for having me on, Megan. I've enjoyed every moment of it, and I loved walking the session with you as well, and I'm so glad you got such a great benefit from it. And anyone that wants to reach out, if they sort of mention Megan, we can do a bit of a discount for you guys too. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. And thank you so much. Thank you. Honestly, thank you. Seriously.
You are more than welcome. It is my absolute pleasure.
Thank you.